because it's so easy for attunement to be something we assume, right? Like we can't do any moves of the tango. We can't do any assessment. We can't really do anything without attuning. But that's not always something that as therapists we're that conscious of. So
Right.
that's what we want to focus in on how that's something that we always need to do as therapists. Before we find words, we need to attune, like listen deeply, get a felt sense of it before we find words, and then our words may or may not be accurate for the client. So we also, all of our reflections, all of our micro skills, all of our validations, any of evocative things, it's all about checking, are we on target with the client?
Right.
Like Sue Johnson always said that we have to keep repeating things to slow the client down so they can move into their, present moment emotional experience. But really, what are we going to repeat? Well, we have to, first of all, notice this thing. What stands out the most of all of the client's words? What seems to have the most um, significance or emotional weight? That's where she came up with this term, emotional handle. So we're
Mhm.
really kind of talking about emotional handles, but in other words, we're talking about how do we attune to what is really standing out.
And another part that you see, you write on your book, it's enter the world of the client and seize it with their mind, heart, and body. It's really like to be in their skin in a way, right?
Right.
Mhm.
That's the Rogerian thing, right? Walking around in someone else's world. Of course, we need to do that with cultural humility because I might assume that I know what your world is like if you tell me that it's lonely or it's crowded but I don't know for sure what that feels like. But I will get closer to your experience if I attune within my own body and then I find words and you slightly adjust those words perhaps to fit your experience. Thing we need to remember is that we're doing this together because the client also may not have a felt sense of their experience
Mhm.
until they share it with us. We attune, we enter their world, we reflect it back, and their own world becomes more clear. To at the surface of what a client says, do I get it? Do I get it? But it's, oh, am I entering your world, reflecting it back in such a way that you hear and you take it in and say, yeah, that's
Mhm.
more and more clear for me as a client what I was trying to convey.
Right. So it's not a place where they already know everything and they are showing or not to us. And it's not on a place where we already know everything and we are just teaching them. We are like putting all the pieces of the puzzle in a felt sense
Yes.
together.
To the images that a client uses, um, that gives us any image they use or any word that seems powerful or we might feel curious about that we want to hear more about that word or phrase. And
Mhm.
also to the nonverbals. If the client has a big sigh after they say a word or a phrase or an image, that tells us that that was significant. Something bodily shifted
Right.
after saying that or while saying that. So we attune to both the verbal and the nonverbal and the pace, the speed with which someone says something.
Maybe a way of saying it is we are aware of our own experience as therapists too when we are tuning.
Yes, that's
Right.
the other thing. The
Mhm.
client's words, their nonverbal, and our experience. If we start feeling our own heart pounding or our stomach take a leap or we just get some reaction that feels that we notice, we are also curious about what's happening.
Tuning to that.